Good day, everyone.
I'm Erjan Gaman, and my topic for today is all about climate change. Since we have a limited time, I will no longer post an activity here, and we will now proceed to the proper lecture, which is all of the topic is climate change. But before that, let me read first our objectives for today's lesson. So our intended learning outcomes, first is define climate change. Second is to identify the main anthropogenic causes of climate change. Third is describe the global greenhouse gas emission by economic sector. And lastly, discuss the major environmental, social, and economic effects of climate change. So what is climate change? Climate change, it is a long-term shift of weather. It is a long-term shift of temperature and weather pattern primarily caused by human activities since in 19th century. So what are these anthropogenic causes or the human causes that contribute to the climate change? First is the deforestation. What is deforestation? Deforestation, the trees helps to regulate the climate by absorbing the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. When they are cut down, that beneficial effect is lost and the carbon stored in the trees is released into the atmosphere, adding to the greenhouse effect. Second is the burning of the fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are burned to produce heat, which is then converted into electricity, transportation and power, and industrial energy. This process releases carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, contributing to the global warming. Next anthropogenic causes of that can contribute to the climate change is the transportations, the cars and all the vehicular transportations that we use today and that transport ourselves in our goods, and our goods are the major source of global greenhouse gas emission. By burning the petroleum-based fuel and the combustion engines, it releases a massive amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And next is the electricity. The process of converting various forms of energy into electrical power for use in homes, industries, and businesses. It typically occurs in a power plant and where mechanical energy is transformed into electricity using generators. So lastly is the industrialization. Manufacturing involves the use of large amounts of powers and the alteration of natural system. Also, urbanization is another great factor that can contribute to the climate change. It results in the overcrowding, the population, the poor sanitation, and the massive urbanization can also lead to the deforestation, emission, and more greenhouse gases. And now let's proceed to the greenhouse gases emission by the economic sector. So here in the what do you call this one, the diagram, we see that the energy has the highest emission use. In this energy, the sector includes emission from electricity, heat that is accumulated 29.7% of all the greenhouse gas emission. In energy, it includes the transportation, which is the 13.7%, manufacturing, constructions 12.7%, and buildings 6.6%. This is the total of the energy that used in the economic sectors according to the data in 2021. Next to the energy is the agriculture, which composed of 11.7%. In the agriculture sectors, this is the second highest emitting greenhouse sector after the energy of global emission. It is a major emitters in the sector includes the livestock, farming and agricultural soils such as methane from the manure. Next from agriculture is industrial, which compose of 6.5% of global emissions. This includes the emission from chemical and cement productions, among and other things. Next from industrial is the waste emission, such as methane and nitrous oxide from landfills, makes up 3.4% of the global total. And lastly is the land use. Land use change and forestry make up of 2.7%. This net total includes both emissions released by the land and the forest, such as when trees are cut down or when organic matter breaks down soil, as well as the carbon removed from the atmosphere as the forests grow. So now we will now proceed to the environmental, social, and economic effects of climate change. So in environmental, we have hotter temperature. As the greenhouse gas concentration rises, so does the global surface temperature. In the last decade, on 2011 to 2020, the warmest on record since in 1980s. Each decade has been warmer and then the previous one. Nearly all land areas are seeing more hot days and heat. So next is the increase in drought. Climate change is a changing water availability, making it scarcer in more regions. Global warming exacerbates water shortages in already water-stressed regions, and it is leading to an increased risk of agricultural drought, affecting crops and ecological droughts, increasing the vulnerability of ecosystem. So next is the warning of the rising ocean. In the ocean soak up most of the heat from the global warming. The rate at which the ocean is warming strongly increased over the past 2 decades across the depths of the ocean. As the ocean warms, its volumes increases since water expands as it gets warmer. So next is the melting of the sea ice. The effects of the climate change are most apparent in the world's coldest region, the poles. The Arctic is heating up twice as fast as anywhere else on Earth, leading to the rapid melting of the glaciers and polar ice sheets, and where a massive amount of water is being stored. So next is in the economic factor. So first is the agriculture. This agriculture sector is the most vulnerable in climate change. This due to the lost yield could cause prices for animal feed and ethanol to rise and potentially disrupt marketplaces at home and abroad. As a result of climate change's impact, in addition to flooding, increased heat and drought will likely to reduce crop yields. Next is the infrastructure. Most of our society's critical infrastructure is at risk from flooding. Sea levels rises could potentially cause loss of value of assets. Next is the human health and productivity. Extreme weather and climate-related natural disaster can also exacerbate mental health issues. The most vulnerable populations, such as the elderly, children, and low-income communities and communities of color, will be risked at most. And lastly is the social. And the social effects there includes the poverty and the displacement. The climate change increases the factor that put and keep people in poverty. Floods may sweep away the urban slum, destroying humans and livelihoods. Heat can make it difficult to work in outdoor jobs. Water scarcity may affect the crops. So in the social factor, we have the increased water and the insecurity. In a climate change, it is intensifying water and food insecurity worldwide. Rising temperatures, erratic weather patterns, and extreme events like droughts and floods disrupt agricultural and production and water availability. This challenge disproportionate affect vulnerable communities, exacerbating hunger, resource, and scarcity. And that's all. And that's end my report.